President Trump proposed a budget blueprint that would boost defense spending to over $1 trillion for the first time, while slashing budgets for education, foreign aid, environment, health, and public assistance programs. Retired four-star General Jack Keane joins me now. So I get the fact that it sounds spectacularly expensive, over $1 trillion, but put it in perspective for us, General.
Yeah, well, the two things that are happening, and they have a tendency to get merged, and it causes significant confusion. The Congress has worked on and put together, as part of the reconciliation bill, they don't need the appropriators, just the authorizers to do it, a $150 billion supplemental, which would be in a sense a supplemental to the 2025 budget. And that would be the most significant buildup we have seen since the Reagan administration. I've seen the details of it, and it really makes some sense. And it's at the beginning of a down payment to recover the military. And it needs to be rebuilt. And the president campaigned on this rather strenuously about it. The second thing that's happening is the 2026 budget that's coming forward. And in that budget, the military is flat. Actually, if you account for inflation, then it's reduced. So if we go through 4 years of flat defense budgets, even though we've got the upfront supplemental, we are not going to accomplish the president's objective. I mean, he has stated clearly we got to rebuild the military and dig it out of the hole that it's in. And something's got to get squared here before that 2026 budget gets approved. The Congress will have its voice, but I think the Department of Defense also has a voice here to say, and we got to fix this.
Yeah.
It's indisputable. If people saw the classified briefings and where we are with China, we would understand that we have to dig ourselves out of this hole. What are we really trying to do? Are we trying to win a war with China? What we're trying to do is prevent a war with China.
Yep.
And if they outpace us and have greater capacity than what we have in the region, that is an incentive for them to use military force to accomplish what they want in that region. And we don't want them to have that incentive.
No.
We stopped the Soviet Union from doing that by appropriate budgets.
Yep, absolutely. Next one, General. Ukraine's President Zelensky said a ceasefire with Russia was possible at any moment. Now, he called on allies to apply greater pressure to Moscow to put the measure in place. What do you think is going to happen there?
Well, first of all, you know, Putin's got several days of a ceasefire culminating around his victory over Nazi Germany in World War II, something they do every year. I think he's doing that for two reasons. One, he's flagging that he's interested in ceasefire, but we all know he's rejected the Trump administration's 30-day ceasefire time and time again. Secondly, he doesn't want Zelensky raining drones and missiles down into Moscow, which they've done before, and humiliating and embarrassing him while he has all these foreign leaders and the public paying a lot of attention to what's taking place in Moscow. But Zelensky cleverly, and I think talking to the administration about this as well, it makes a lot of sense, says, why don't we start a 30-day ceasefire in conjunction with what Putin is proposing? Let's put that back on him. But Putin doesn't want to do that. He keeps stalling because he wants more and more concessions. And he's taken a very hard line here, David.
All right, final one, another hot spot in the world. Israel voting to approve a new ground operation that includes occupying the Gaza Strip, also agreeing to take control over aid distribution. Now, we should mention that the UN Agency for Relief in Gaza had been working hand in glove in many operations with Hamas. Israel just made a huge discovery of a lot of weapons stored with other UN material. So, I mean, that operation, the UN aid operation, to take it over would mean really demilitarizing Hamas. So it was a very important move. But what do you think about their occupation, the Israeli occupation of Gaza?
Yeah, this is a change in tactics and operations, primarily when General Zamir took over on March the 5th as the chief of the Israeli Defense Forces. He recognized that the previous chief did good work in taking on Hamas. They did a lot of raids. They reduced the number of fighters somewhere in the neighborhood of 2/3 or 75%. But still, there's several thousand still left, and they're in political control of Gaza. And if the Israelis are ever going to leave Gaza, and at some point they certainly want to, they've got to wrest that political control away from them, and they're going to have to finish off the Hamas fighters to do that. He's made up his mind and convinced the prime minister by occupying the territory, they can do that much more thoroughly now than just conducting raids. And, of course, there's less of the Hamas fighters. Objective, finish off Hamas, depose them as ever being able to control Gaza again.
By the way, we've got a picture. I know we have to run, but we got a picture of a UN aid bag filled with bullets. I mean, it's really disgraceful the way UN had allowed itself to be operating with known terrorists, and that had to end. So at least it's the end of that. General Jack Keane, always a pleasure to see you, sir. Thank you so much for being here. Go Yankees, General.
Yeah, they need a little help with starting pitching. Thanks, David.
Indeed.